So last week, if you haven't seen, I made a little video on the negatives about having an outdoor studio space. But this week, I'm going to be focusing on the positives because it's not all bad. There are a lot of positives on having an outdoor space to call your own, to do all your sorts of arty things in. And this video is going to be about that. The first thing I want to mention it, and it's very obvious, is that in an outdoor studio space, it is your space. You can do whatever you want with it. You can decorate it however you like. For me, it's a nice place that I can just retreat to and just sit down and do my own thing and not really care about anything else in the world. It's like a very sort of meditative place. So if you feel like you need one of those things in your life, and if you have the space or an old shed that you don't use, or you're thinking of building one, then I think that is a good enough reason to sort of go with it. I'm sure you can imagine what it's like and how important it is, so with that imagination, go and create your space. The second thing is that your paints and your supplies for your art are all in one place. I know in the previous video I talked about how I keep my sketchbooks and personally valuable artwork inside where the conditions are more stable than outdoors. But for the main part, I keep my brushes in here, I keep my paints in here, I keep any sorts of like scissors, pencils, rulers, whatever I need to sort of do my thing. That's all kept in here, and it's all in one space, and I know where it is, and it's easily accessible when I am making my artwork. So that's for watercolour. If you make like pots or jewellery or whatever other art things, it is a nice place to keep all your supplies in one space. So yeah, that's definitely useful, and it definitely lowers the activation energy for just sort of going out and actually starting to create things. So big positive to have. Similar to that last point, if the art that you make does make a bit of mess, like I guess clay or woodwork or God knows what, and painting for that matter, you can make a mess and it doesn't really matter. That's like the point of a studio. It's allowed to get messy, it's allowed to get paint splatters in places and muck on the ground and all that sort of stuff. As long as you make it sort of easy to sweep up or whatever. Like personally for me, I don't care if the desk gets a bit dirty or if the walls get paint splattered on them. I feel like that sort of adds to it in a way. Not that I'm just like artistically throwing paint everywhere. A really good thing that I found over time with having this studio is that it's a great external storage space. There's a few things in here that doesn't directly relate to what I create with watercolour, but I've just sort of put it in here because it's a good place to store things. So like, for some reason I'm collecting ribbons at the moment. I don't know why, but one day I'm going to create something with these ribbons, and instead of just having that cluttering up my room or like drawers or whatever, I just put them in a jar and put them out here. In the past I've put like unfinished projects in here, or like broken pottery things that need to be fixed. What else do I have in here? I do have acrylic paints that I don't really use that much, but I can just store them in here. It's just nice to know that it doesn't have to be purely for art, it can just be an extra storage place. So if you feel like your room or your house or whatever's getting a bit cluttered, then maybe having an outdoor studio can help fix that problem as well. A thing to consider. And finally, one of my favourite things about this space is that I've made it my own, and I've made it so that it just feels very breathable and very fresh in here. Every time I come in here it feels very creative and just calming in a way. I think what's helped that is that not only have I painted all the walls white so that it's very bright and airy, because this is a very small space and the walls needed to be white, so that it sort of gave the illusion that it is a lot bigger than it actually is. But it's also the fact that this studio is literally outdoors. I open my door or my window and the outdoors come in. Sometimes that does mean that a bird has flown through here a couple of times, and I get attacked sometimes by wasps in summer. But it is nice to be able to sort of paint and make art and everything in here while there's like frogs chirping outdoors, which you may be able to hear, or birds flying overhead tweeting to each other, or sometimes my chickens shouting at me because they want food. It's the little things in life. But yeah, it does bring that sort of very relaxing atmosphere to it, and that's one of my favourite things about this studio. So they are some of the positives about having an outdoor studio. And so if you are thinking about building an outdoor studio, I hope they've sort of helped inspire you to keep going with it, because it is a bit of a project to undertake at the start, but for most of the part, I think it is worth it. I know I mentioned quite a few negatives in my last video, but overall, like, I wouldn't trade this in really for anything else. Overall, this place is just lovely. It's exactly what I wanted when I was first thinking about converting this cubby house into what it is now. So I am happy that it's turned out that way. If you haven't seen the last video, then do definitely go and check that one out, because there are a few important things mentioned in that one that you should consider if you do have an outdoor space or if you're thinking of making one. But apart from that, I will see you again in another video. Please feel free to subscribe and like if you haven't already, because that helps me a lot. Helps me. And yes, I will go back to enjoying this lovely winter's afternoon. I hope the lighting hasn't been changing too much in this video. There's just clouds flying over everywhere and sometimes they ruin my filming. But yeah, anyway, I'll complain about that in another video. Bye!